Hi, and welcome back to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. We have a great show planned for you today, full of all your Philadelphia sports news and signings and releases and trades galore here in the Philadelphia area. First, let me introduce my panel. To the left of me, we have Tyler Harper and Mark Wilson, the two assistant producers. We're all producer show today, I guess you could say. We'll get right into it. We'll go right to the Philadelphia 76ers, who are in full tank mode. They're absolutely atrocious. They haven't won a game in seemingly months. They did not win a game in the month of February, 0-11 in February, which is just so bad that people stopped even going to the games. But Sam Hinkie did make a splash on the day of the trade deadline. Let's take a look at who's gone from the 76ers roster that was so bad. Spencer Hawes, Lavoy Allen, and Evan Turner. See you later. Hawes to the Cavs, Allen and Turner to the Pacers. All in like the very last minute of the trade deadline last Thursday. The trade deadline was at 3 p.m. All this came about kind of at 2:55, 2:57. So it was really last minute. Guys, what do you think of Sam Hinkie's moves?
First, it kind of puts a hinder on our show. You saw in our intro, we have Evan Turner hitting some key shots, hitting some layups. Maybe now we could put in Sam Hinkie at his press conference, since really that's the Sixers' shining star this year. Besides, I mean, if on court, maybe MCW. But nevertheless, you're absolutely right. Sam Hinkie made all the right moves. He got rid of the pieces we all thought he'd get rid of, minus Thad Young. Thad Young staying on the roster as really the veteran, still the most tenured Sixer on the roster. But no, for the most part, I really like these moves. I mean, obviously, yes, the Sixers are tanking. I mean, it's been no secret. Harry Mays of 97.5 The Fanatic, his Twitter icon is the Sixers logo with just a tank on it now. Like, everybody's embracing it, but nevertheless, they know this is what you have to do in the NBA. You have to knock it down to build it back up again. Look at the Indiana Pacers. Look at the Miami Heat. They had to bring it to the ground before they could build it back up again. You can't just tread water like the Sixers have been doing the past couple years and float around that 7th and 8th seed to get great again in the NBA. You can't do it. You have to be able to build it down, tear it down to build it back up again, and that's what Sam Hinkie did. Quite well, I might add. So he's just really just stockpiling on all those draft picks. I think we'll get to it in a little bit, but a decent amount of second rounders to go with his first rounders. He's definitely looking towards the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think actually, he did the right thing in just trading everyone away. He said, they're all last-minute deals. So he was kind of holding out to the end, which I think worked out because he got those higher picks, and the people the Sixers trade away are people that teams wanted. So holding out a little bit definitely got them better. Give him better leverage in dealing them. But he did do the right thing for even the players. It's not fair to keep people like Hawes and Turner around who are good players when they can go somewhere else and win. When you're an organization that you're intentionally putting yourself into the ground, no one really wants to be in that situation. It's rough for MCW, but guys like Turner and Hawes, get them out of there, and keep going with the young team. Go with a full young team. You have Young and you have MCW as leaders next year, in addition to all those draft picks. So it was huge getting rid of some of these older guys that may not be able to mix so well with these guys that are coming out of college. It was actually, I think it was in the Inquirer. It was an editorial, little cartoon at the press conference. I think he was trading away his children to the LA Lakers. His kids were like, "Don't do it, Dad." He's like, "It's for the better of the team." So I think that kind of describes how where the Sixers are going right now. Kind of get rid of what they have and just prepare themselves for the future.
Yeah, Sam Hinkie's done a really good job of messing up our graphics here. I guess I got to redo that now. But it's all for the good of the team. I do agree with you guys that it is the right move, and especially Evan Turner. Right before the trade deadline, he was quoted as saying he's excited to see what happens. And when you're on the trading block, you don't say that. I mean, in any situation, you want to be with the team that you're playing for. But he kind of went on record and said, "Yeah, I'm excited to see where I end up," as if he knew that his time in Philadelphia was over. So, guys, my question to you is, what is Evan Turner's legacy in Philadelphia? Second overall pick out of Ohio State, and really never lived up.
I think that quote kind of summed it up in a sense. And it's the fact that we knew Evan Turner was talented when he got drafted. When we got the number 2 pick in the lottery that year, we knew John Wall was going number 1 to the Wizards. But all we were thinking is, all right, at least we got Evan Turner. He's going to be the guy at the time. We're like, all right, he's going to be a guy we can build around. But then as he progressed, he started out good, but then he kind of turned into more of a role player. And when he would get on hot streaks, he'd be good. But always what was in question was his attitude. He was never 100% there mentally, which I think held up people like myself on Evan Turner. He has all the ability, and he can be a team player, but mentally, when he comes out and says some stupid things on Twitter and Instagram and just in general to the media, you have to question where his head is. So with that statement being made about, oh, I'm excited to see where I go, well, now he's in Indiana, and he has a chance to be a top contender in the playoffs. So I guess he got kind of what he wanted. He's in an exciting place, but nevertheless, that was what really held up Evan Turner for me, was the fact that he was never mentally there 100%.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Tyler. I mean, I don't think he leaves much of a legacy here in Philadelphia. Does it's not going to be as great as positive one between the social media things and that comment. I'm excited to see where I end up. That's not something that's something the fans want to hear and the organization wants to hear, coming from number 2 pick overall, someone who's supposed to be like the savior for the team almost. To go, I'm excited. Basically, say I'm excited to get out of here and just see where I'm going to end up and hopefully win. Well, I mean, Sixers are at the bottom, so wherever you go, you're going to win. But that's just not good at all, and it's going to leave a sour taste in the Sixers fans' mouth when they decide to come back to Wells Fargo and cheer on the Sixers.
Yeah, as excited as Evan Turner was to leave the Sixers, as excited as Sixers fans are for the NBA draft, which will be on June 26th of 2014. Let's take a look at the draft picks that the Sixers have in this draft. They have the number 2, which is theirs. This is all the numbers current based on the standings right now in the NBA. So they have the number 2 pick in the draft. Number 11 from New Orleans in the Drew Holiday deal, and 5 second-round draft picks, 2 of which are their own. But they have a stockpile of draft picks, whether to trade or to actually take these guys and develop them, because Brett Brown is about player development as well as Sam Hinkie and analytics and all that mumbo-jumbo. But, guys, what are you excited for in this year's NBA draft, aside from the talent that is deep in this draft?
What's not to be excited for with this NBA draft? This is the draft where we could see where the difference between this year's draft and last year's draft is last year we were still all wondering where Hinkie was going to go exactly. We knew he was an analytics guy. We knew he was kind of interested in tearing down the team, but we weren't sure how far. But then when we saw Drew Holiday getting traded on one of his first nights as GM, then we kind of knew, all right, this is going to be an interesting ride. But now this year, we know where they're headed, and we know he has draft picks to burn. 5 second-round picks, 2 first-round picks, 1 their own, probably going to be a lottery pick, which is the one downside, the fact that even though they are the second worst team in the NBA right now, it's a lottery pick, meaning it could go anywhere in that range. Not that that's too much of a hinder, seeing as this draft is deep with talent, one of the deepest drafts in years, but you want one of those top picks to really get one of those key guys, whether it's a Wiggins or a Parker.
Yeah, well, first off, the lottery draft, they actually, I believe the NBA redesigned this lottery to just kind of avoid, I don't know what the Sixers are doing now, but teams just totally tanking it, going for that first pick. So I believe that's where the idea went with the lottery. But, I mean, I'm really excited for this draft. No Philadelphia team in my recent memory has had this many picks in a draft. And, there's so much room for the Sixers to grow and develop that, there's so much room for them to do. You said it's projected right now that the number 2 pick roughly and the number 11 pick. So out of the top 11 players in the draft, 2 of those are going to the Sixers. So there is a great deal of talent there, plus 5 in the second round. There's endless opportunity for what Hinkie wants to do with him. He could trade him away. I feel like you could see at least 2 of the second round draft picks going away, being traded away, along with the player from the Sixers who are on there now. Don't know who, but that's definitely going for a higher up pick, maybe late in the first round, depending on who they trade away. So there's definitely going to be a move between now and draft day. If not, it's going to be during draft day, and they're going to be moving people and picks. But it's definitely going to be exciting.
Yeah, it is going to be exciting, and the team's going to be young next year. They're going to be talented, but they're going to be young. Might take a couple years, but regardless, the Sixers are headed in the right direction by kind of cleaning house, as weird as that sounds. But we'll go to another team that is also in the right direction. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. As of today, they signed 3 of their guys from last year. Jason Kelce, Jason Peters, and Riley Cooper all signed Eagles for multi-year contracts. Take a look at the graphic. Kelce got, I believe, $40.1 million guaranteed. Riley Cooper got a 5-year deal worth $25 million. And Peters is kind of the anchor of the offensive line, so they needed to bring him back regardless. Guys, what do you think of these re-signings? And I mean, the last time the Eagles went on a big re-signing spree was before the 2012 season, in which they went 4-12. So we can't really say that it's going to be high and mighty. We're going to win the Super Bowl. But what are your thoughts on?
Well, a lot of those re-signings in the 2012, before the 2012 season, were free agent signings too. You brought in a lot of new guys, The joke was basically that the front office was playing fantasy football, bringing in DRC, bringing in Nnamdi Asomugha, both of whom didn't exactly perform up to expectations. But nevertheless, I like these three signings. I really do. I think bringing back Kelsey and Peters, this offensive line was one of the best in football last year, which is a complete opposite to what they were in 2012, which was terrible. There were so many injuries, so many holes in that offensive line. Whether it was Michael Vick or Nick Foles back there, neither one could really stay on their feet. As far as the Riley Cooper signing goes, I do like it. He really was Nick Foles' guy. Cooper had 8 touchdowns, 47 receptions, and averaged about 17.8 yards per catch. But the thing is, I'm not crazy about 5 years for Riley Cooper. I'm really not. I mean, he needs to just build himself up. I was thinking maybe more of a 2 or 3 year deal. But hey, if he's Nick Foles' guy, keep him going forward.
Yeah, I definitely like the signings in Peter and Kelsey. The offensive line is, in my belief, the number one priority of any team. That's where it begins. If you don't give your quarterback time, they're not going to be able to make plays. So Russell Wilson, he's able to sit in the pocket and make plays. And as this year went on, Foles had all day to sit in the pocket sometimes. He had 10, 12-second time slots in the pocket, and that really helped him out and really helped the Eagles out to win. So there's great signs by them. I am a little weary on the long deals, though, like Tyler said. For linemen, I think the average career of a lineman in the NFL is about 5 years. So signing him to sort of long contract just makes me a little bit weary. He's a big guy. He's getting hit every play. So I feel he's definitely going to get hurt somewhere along the line. Hopefully it's not too serious. He's able to finish out the contract healthy and still playing well. But I do like the signing of Riley Cooper. He became a big target for
Nick
Foles.
Nick Foles. Sorry,
There it
blank
is.
there. Yeah, Nick Foles. He did become a big target for Nick Foles, and that's something that the NFL didn't expect this year because Michael Vick never really went to him. And Cooper's also a bigger receiver than Maclin and Avant. Maclin and Avant were both 6 foot. Riley Cooper is 6'3", so 3 inches is a little bit of a difference. He's going to have a bigger arm span, so it's definitely going to help out. But Riley Cooper was big. He had 3 touchdowns in the game against Oakland. 3 out of 7 was to him, and he's definitely fast. He's a big player too, and he does play special teams. So that was a good sign by him. $25 million, not too sure about. It's a lot, but he's definitely a good sign for the Eagles.
Now, what do you guys think the next move for the Eagles is? They could bring Jeremy Maclin back, or they could go a completely different route, take a wide receiver in the draft. What do you think they should do? I
think they should go for a wide receiver in the draft. In all honesty, there are a couple really good young wide receivers there. A couple coming out of Mizzou, ironically, where Jeremy Maclin came out of, that are a good balance of size and speed, that are taller than Jeremy Maclin, but still have the speed to be able to be a nice number 2 or maybe a number 3 under Cooper and Jackson. But honestly, if the Eagles decide to let Jeremy Maclin walk, I'd be completely okay with it. I'm just unsure of how he's going to react after tearing his ACL in training camp, being out for the season. I mean, I've heard he rejected a 2-year deal. Maybe if he's willing to sign a 1-year deal to try to see where he's at mentally and physically, I'd be okay with it. But other than that, if he starts to get greedy, I'd be okay with letting him walk.
I think the Eagles actually need to focus on defense. Defense, number one, secondary specifically. We've seen throughout the years in the NFL, especially last year, teams who had their secondary just destroyed by injuries. Those are the teams where they get to lose. That's where they struggled, and that's where their success went out the window. So Eagles definitely need to shore up the secondary, especially that's something they struggled with beginning of the year. The other thing, they need to figure out this Foles-Vick controversy because that's going to be another thing coming into training camp. Yeah, it's great because they both, they both argue with each other on the field and they go back and forth, making each other better players. But they need to figure that out. I think they need to get rid of Vick and kind of go with Foles, to solidify. Foles is the future of this team. Vick, as much as good player as he is, they can get better. They can get good amount for him on the trade value right now. So I think they trade Vick and solidify the secondary.
Now, you mentioned the defense. Let's take a look at Jeremy Maclin's stats from before he got injured, which he did have a good year. 69 catches, 857 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like Tyler said, he did tear his ACL in training camp. But, guys, specifically Mark, because Tyler already gave his opinion, do you think they should bring Jeremy Maclin back? I mean, they obviously need a third receiver. They're not just not going to sign a receiver.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely going to bring him back because he was going to be the number 2 receiver last year. So obviously the talent's there, and he is a good receiver. We've seen what he can do. So bringing him in is another threat to go with Deshaun Jackson and Riley Cooper. It's the defense isn't going to know what to do with themselves, and you have some McCoy in the backfield. So you have threat downfield. You can send Jackson downfield, Cooper short, and Maclin short or mid, and the defense has to cover the entire field because you can do a draw and hand it off to McCoy. So I think Maclin is the sign over Avant.
Tyler, if they do bring Jeremy Maclin back, who plays the slot? Because neither one of these guys are experienced in the slot.
I actually may see where Macklin fits in the slot just to see, again, because you've got Cooper outside, you got Jackson outside. But I think if you bring back Jeremy Macklin in general, I think at that point, I think you've got to cut Jason Avant just because I think he gets lost in the shuffle. Because not only would you have Cooper, Macklin, and Jackson, but you have two premier tight ends in Brent Selleck and Zach Ertz, who really started to shine last year, who are used kind of like receivers in that Chip Kelly system. So because of that, if you have all of those options out there, I mean, yeah, Jason Avant could be reliable, but I think he'd get lost in the shuffle. So honestly, I think if you bring Macklin back, I think you cut Jason Avant.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think you have to bring back Jason Avant. He's a clubhouse guy. And
that's true.
With the Eagles, with all the personalities that they have in that locker room, he is the leader of that locker room. Just the way he commands himself.
Definitely an unsung hero.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is better than people give him credit for. But we will move on to the Philadelphia Phillies, who the big news of the Phillies this offseason so far has been the broadcaster. It hasn't even been the players. What's going on with Comcast? Yeah, let's take a look at who's going to be calling games for the Philadelphia Phillies. Jamie Moyer and Matt Stairs will be, along with Tom McCarthy, of course, our good friend. And Mike Schmidt will be doing some Phillies things for Comcast. So, guys, what are your reaction to this broadcast team? Quite the characters we have on camera.
Quite an interesting broadcast team. There's no doubt about it. I like that Comcast chose to bring in two fan favorites to be the regulars, along with Tom McCarthy and Jamie Moyer and Matt Stairs. Two heroes from that 2008 championship team. That a good move by Comcast to say, let's bring in these two fan favorites who know a lot about the game and who, honestly, in the spring training games that have aired so far, kind of sound like fans with microphones mainly. I mean, obviously they have more knowledge than fans, but Matt Stairs is, if you've seen interviews with him, he's just a normal guy who was fortunate enough to play baseball. But nevertheless, he really loves baseball. He and Jamie Moyer, and the Mike Schmidt deal is interesting because he's just doing Sunday home games. So I guess he's taking time to still do coach down in Florida with the Phillies minor league players, with the single A guys. But nevertheless, to have him on Sundays will be very interesting to see. I don't know how many Sunday games are going to be a three-man booth because it's kind of interesting how they divide it up. But if Mike Schmidt's there, is it going to be kind of a four-man rotation? And
I guess.
Very interesting to see. But Mike Schmidt's definitely knowledgeable, so it'll be very interesting to watch the Phillies on Comcast Sportsnet this year.
Yeah, all three of them are really, really great guys. They're all really smart baseball players. So having Moyer and Stairs as the normal everyday guys is going to be amazing, I think, because they're going to be able to provide insights not only just to what's going on the field, what's going on in the game, but also to what may be going on in the Phillies clubhouse. What are the players thinking? What are this? Because they played with the majority of the guys that are going to be on the field. So they have they're going to be inside the head of this player and say, what are you looking for here? And Matt Stairs is a big hitter. You say it's 0-2 count. What are you looking from this pitcher? Or for Moyer, hey, if you were in this situation, what would you be throwing? So it's going to be really good to see have a successful pitcher and a successful hitter broadcasting these games. And for Schmidt, I saw Diamond online somewhere. It's going to be Sundays with Schmidt, something like that. He's going to be home he's going to be in the booth or broadcasting some way for all 13 of the home Sunday games. So that'll be good to see him. Yeah, it's another fan favorite, so that's definitely going to drive ratings through the roof. But he's another good guy. He instructs the players. He knows them all. He's worked with them all. Everyone who's been up through the Phillies system, and he's going to provide great insight. However, he was not at spring training this year. He wasn't in the off-season workouts. I read online that he was for undisclosed health reasons. He wasn't around, but that is promising to see that he is coming back, to help call games.
Guys, spring training is started down in Florida. Lucky people down in Florida, as we're here freezing our butts off. But what have you seen from the Phillies, if anything, so far? It's so early in spring training, but what are you excited for? What players are you watching through spring training?
Like I mentioned last week, I'm kind of excited for the young core, like Cody Ashley, getting that start at third base to see what he can do, to see if he is the guy. Because, of course, you have Maikel Franco down in the minor leagues. And just really the young guys in the minor leagues in general in spring training I'm looking forward to, because the crown jewel of the Phillies farm system right now is Jesse Biddle, the local pitcher who was drafted a few years ago, making his way up the minor league rankings. I believe he'll start either as the ace in Double-A Reading, or if not as a member of the rotation with the Iron Pigs, but he's definitely a face to watch out for in the next couple of years. So it'll just be cool to see how far they've progressed over the last couple of years and to really see where this young talent that the Phillies have started to build up again is going to go.
I'm actually interested in a few people. The first one's Ryan Howard. He said he's 100% for the first time in forever long. He said it before in the past, but he said he actually feels really good. And he's actually believes that he's 100%. He means it this time, and
we all
at least we all hope he does as well. But at least he's going to aim for 40 home runs this year, so kind of return to his old self that we came to know and love. That was a huge part of the Phillies' offense. Other person I'm looking at is Hamels. He had shoulder surgery in the offseason, so he's a little behind on spring training, so he won't be pitching opening day. He might even be on the DL for opening day. But so see someone like him, who's one of the key starters in the rotation, to be hurt. He was injured a little bit last year too, so see how they work him in and how healthy he's going to be is going to be important. But like Tyler brought up, and Jesse Biddle, how are they going to work the pitchers? Because that's something they struggled with last year with the pitchers. The bullpen was awful last year. Cliff was able to keep them in games through 8 innings, scoreless ball. Phillies going to have a 3-run lead, and the bullpen would blow it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the bullpen comes out this year, what differences they make, and how much they've improved.
Now, guys, a little non-Phillies question, but somewhat Phillies related. Mike Trout signed his 1-year, $1 million deal with the Angels to so they can chat some more about how much money they're going to pay him. How bad do you want to see Mike Trout in a Phillies uniform? He's a South Jersey guy. He's a Phillies fan. He's an Eagles fan. He's interacted on Twitter with, I believe, Shady McCoy and Mike Vick about how much they love the Eagles. How bad do you want to see him in Phillies pinstripes?
I think this is every Phillies fan's dream to see Mike Trout wearing those Phillies pinstripes year in and year out. How likely is it going to happen? I don't know, but you're right. He is a South Jersey guy. He's not too far from me in South Jersey. My mother actually knows his brother through her law workings. He's a law clerk. So I found that rather interesting. But nevertheless, he's a local guy. He loves the Eagles. So, of course, there's all those theories that, yeah, he's going to want to return home. And there's even the sort of conspiracy theories that the front office is kind of signing lower deals. They're going to clear out the contracts and just make space for Mike Trout when he finally becomes a free agent. And when he does, he's going to break the bank, by the way. So I guess that would be smart planning. But nevertheless, I'd love to see it, but I don't know how likely it would be.
Yeah, I personally would love to see it too. Mike Trout's a great guy, really interactive. He's with Phillies fan. He loves Philadelphia sports. The Eagles were in the playoffs. He was tweeting out all about the Eagles. So he's already a bit of a fan favorite here in Philadelphia. But they signed the 1-year, $1 million contract, which is it was almost tied to Albert Pujols for a record for a second-year player. Because that's something you really don't see in second-year guys. You're not giving them $1 million because after might have been a fluke of a first season. But I actually coming back to Philly, I think the Phillies would give a bit of a discount, if you want to call it, because he would love to play here. But I don't think they're going to be willing to drop, say, $150 million for him to come and play here. I don't see the Phillies have that in the bank.
That would be the lower echelon of what he's going to get.
Yeah.
Very lower.
How much would you be willing to pay for Mike Trout?
This is why I'm not a general manager. If I was Phillies general manager, because I doubt Ruben Amaro is going to be GM by that time, but if I was general manager, honestly, I wouldn't come to him with a blank contract, but I'd come to him and say, yeah, we have this in mind, but we're going to be lenient towards you because, honestly, the kid's the most talented player in the game right now. I don't think there's any denying that. He's got a great attitude about himself, 5-tool player of speed, power, he can hit for contact, amazing with the glove. So if you can land a player like that on your team, I don't think you could ask too many questions for contracts as a GM.
Mike Trout, I'm going to offer you this. 5-year, $150 million, club option for the 6. He's going to make a lot of money, too, on top of all the jersey sales. The minute he signs, there's going to be jerseys in every store in the area.
And he's probably going to get countless ad sales, too.
Countless ads. It's going to be ridiculous. So I don't think, money's going to talk, obviously. I don't think it's going to be such a large number to say, come here to Philly, because he's going to want to play here. It's every kid's dream to grow up and play, for their home team. So for him to come here and play was going to be big. Just like Jamie Moyer grew up in the area, played for the Phillies. He loved it. He stayed as long as he could. Now he's back in the broadcast booth. Maybe Mike Trout hopefully will pray that he kind of follows along those same trails.
Yeah. Regardless, Mike Trout is not going to be poor. He's going to be well off when it comes to free agency. We'll move on to the Fast Five. First question, Tyler. What current professional athlete would you like to see in the booth for any sport?
Current professional athlete. Maybe Deshaun Jackson just for funny
Oh,
because
dear
just for humor reasons, just because he doesn't know when to shut up. He talks about anything and everything on Instagram. He already does play-by-play on his own touchdowns on Instagram.
Yes, he does.
So why not? Let's try it. D-Jack, go in the booth.
All right, Mark. Best move Sam Hinkie's made so far.
Best move, dumping house. I think that's obviously what it is. You know, there's no point keeping these older players around when you have good, talented young guys in the draft.
Best move, every move.
Yeah. All right, Tyler. Favorite Allen Iverson moment as he is being retired as a Sixer this week?
Probably the first time he came back with the Nuggets as against the Sixers. He got a nice big intro from Matt Hort, the PA announcer. He ran out. He kissed the Sixer logo. He got a standing ovation as he deserved. So that was really cool to see when he came back with the Denver Nuggets.
All right, Mark. How many games will the Eagles win next year?
The Eagles, I'm going to say 9. 9. They're going to improve a little bit from this past year, but they're going to win the NFC East again and go back to the playoffs.
All right, Tyler. Last question. Best move the Eagles have made so far in the offseason?
Reassuring that offensive line with Jason Kelsey, Jason Peters. You need a solid line to be in front of Nick Foles, who is now without question going to be your starter. So you need that kind of young offensive line to stick together, be able to protect him, and have him be able to make those plays.
All righty, well, that'll do it for our last show here before our spring break here on campus at LaSalle University, which everyone's thrilled about, of course. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to us, lasalle.edu/LaSalleTV. Also, our email, lasalletv@lasalle.edu. We're also on a plethora of social media sites. We're on Twitter, Sports Talk Phila, Facebook, Sports Talk Philadelphia. You keyword search that, and keyword search on YouTube is Sports Talk Philadelphia or LaSalle TV Philly for all our great content here on LaSalle TV. For Tyler and Mark, I'm Andrew. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.